we're going to go ahead and start now. It's good to see all of you. Really good to be together again. For some of you who are on the Marco Polo group, we've been hanging out all week. That's been so much fun. A little crazy, but really, really fun. So it's nice to have you here. Hopefully more of you can come on camera when you can, because it's always good to be able to see faces. It helps us feel connected, but know that I understand when you can't. Some days it just doesn't work out. So, but if you have moments during today that you can be on camera, please join us, because that's fun. And we have a visitor today. If I remember correctly, Juan Figueroa is probably Cami. So, and I think Cami lives across town, I believe, Bakersfield Northwest. Is that correct, Cami? And do you know Lindsay? Do you two know each other?
Yes, we do. And I know Lindsay Cardle and Lindsay Bunting, both the Lindsays.
Okay, perfect. I knew you were friends with Lindsay Bunting too, so that's great. Welcome. It's nice to have you on here.
Thank you.
Okay, and Abby, welcome. It's good to have you back. Okay, moms, today we talked about the fact that when we come and meet together, we can bring anything we want to bring to talk about. We can ask questions, we can share, we can pick each other's brains, we can, whatever it is you want to do, we can do while we're here together. We have learned over this past year and some that we are a very secure, very safe place. So that's a very good thing. We do record these meetings, but we record them so that other moms who can't come on Fridays can watch them. We have talked about, and we are moving to doing private recordings so that they are on YouTube, but you can only access them with a link. So my son's going to help me set that up. I've had quite a few moms reach out and say, oh, please make sure you include me. I don't want to miss being able to access these recordings online. So we will be doing that. So anybody that reaches out to me to the email that's at the end of the recording on YouTube, just send me an email and I will make sure that you're on a list that gets sent that recording every time. So, and also for any of you who are wondering, the video from last Friday, so whatever that date was, 18th or something, 18th, I think, that video will not go up online. We ended up having a very kind of a more personal discussion and paused the recording and decided just to keep it personal. So that Friday, there will not be a recording. So I apologize for that, but at the same time, it was such a great opportunity to just be able to share personal things in a safe place. So that was great. Welcome. More moms are joining. That's wonderful. So this morning, who has something they want to share? Who wants to share what they're doing, what's working for you, what successes you've had, what problems you're having, things, questions, things like that? Who wants to share? And this is so weird. I normally do not have a black screen. I have just Lindsay and me are up this morning. So that's really different. There we go. There's Linnell.
Hey, everyone.
And Cassie. Hello.
I'm hiking with my family, so it's just easier to have my phone in my pocket. But I wanted to share something.
Great.
And then I'll
thanks.
put my phone back away.
Yeah, thanks, Linnell.
So the Children and Youth program from the church is trying to help us teach our children how to make and set goals and then keep their goals. And there are 4 different areas that they can work on. There's a physical, intellectual, social, and what's the last one? Anybody remember the other one? What's the last one? Physical, social,
spiritual.
And spiritual.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, thank you. So I have appreciated a well-educated heart approach to incorporating this program for my family. My oldest is 6. And I believe the recommended age for children and youth program is 8 years old, but of course you can start it earlier. And so the part about modeling and about inviting and inspiring has really come in handy for me to incorporate this with my family, because I wasn't really good at setting goals, but I realized that that's something that I wanted to start doing. And I knew that if I wasn't doing it, then I wouldn't be able to invite or expect my children to do it. So I started working on my own goals without inviting them or teaching them or requiring them to do it. And I think that goes along with a lot of learning, like notebooking. If you do notebooking, then they'll follow you and all the other things. So I think goal setting is no different. And so I started setting my own goals and working towards them. And so the thing that I did was I would share with them what I was working on, and I would involve them in my goals. And so I would tell them today, or this week, I set them a week at a time. So I tell them this week, my goal is to do an exercise video in the morning. Or this week, my goal is to read the Book of Mormon at night. Or this week, my goal, whatever the goals are. And so the fact that I was sharing it with them and they were aware, and then they could participate with me, it just made them involved. And I think it just got their minds thinking about it. So it's been about 2 weeks now where we've started asking our children, well, what goal do you have, or what goal would you like to work on? Because they've had this family culture of mom and dad are already doing a lot of goals. And so this past week, Benji, my oldest, said that he wanted to learn about bears. And his idea of learning about bears was to watch a YouTube video. And that's fine. And that's good. There's a lot of good information, but I wanted to kind of expand his horizons and help him understand that there's a lot more ways that he can learn. So I suggested, let's look up like if there's a museum nearby or somewhere where we can go and do a hands-on learning experience. And so we found out that there is a place 4 hours from us. So we decided to take a mini road trip, and we wanted to help him reach his goal. And so right now we're in North Minnesota. We went to the Bear Center and we helped him work on that goal. And so it's a really neat feeling to set this pattern in our lives, where we work on something, we model it, we're an example, and then we it's just a really easy transition to get our children to join with us. And so it's been a rewarding experience for us to be able to transfer that experience and that knowledge to them, and to see that my children are learning about goal setting and that we can help them accomplish them. And I think it will be very valuable in their lives, and especially in their education, to have this independence where they can take on their own interests and then do whatever it takes to learn about what they want to learn about.
I love that. I really love that you shared that, Linnell. I think that's so great. And it is so important to realize how much our example, our modeling of behavior matters to our kids. That's huge. Lindsay?
No, I think that's really awesome too, that you were willing to drive 4 hours for your kids just to learn about bears. Because I feel like I'm like, oh yeah, it's too far. And like, that's so nice of you to like do whatever it takes for them to accomplish their goals. So I think that that's really awesome, because like that level of support will like let them know, like, no, your goal, the thing, whatever you wanted to pick was important enough that we're going to take the whole family and take a whole day or two, whatever. Like, I think that's really cool. So good for you.
Thank you, Lindsay. I think so too. I thought about that. I thought, how great for Benji to know that he's supported by you guys in that. And that's awesome. That's just really beautiful. Oh, Cassie's little girl, so cute. Oh, I love that. And it's important. And I remember reading something, I think it was Ralphie Jacobs, over at Simply on Purpose. And if you don't follow that, I really highly recommend that. She's on Instagram. Just such wonderful, wonderful things to share. Great examples of positive parenting. But she talks about having your kids set goals. And yeah, sometimes their goals might be a little out of reach, and you might have to help them kind of think about maybe some different goals that you would be able to work on with them. But obviously being able to support them and encourage them in those goals, that's huge. I love that. Thanks again for sharing. Okay, other thoughts, other ideas or questions? And Cammie, Lindsay said you might have questions too. So be thinking about that so that you can join with us and share too. Hey, Abby.
Hey, I was trying to figure out how to turn it around, but I don't know how to do that to show my books. Anyways, I just wanted to share a few things that we've been doing since like the 4th of July is coming. So we've been reading the 1776 report. And I'm actually really surprised because I thought it would like go over my 7-year-old's head, but he wants me to keep reading it. And the language is so, it's just not what I'm used to speaking. So it's pretty cool. And then we're reading this We the People book. And we bought like, we bought the actual like declaration and everything. And so we're going to show him that. And then this is so awesome. I don't know if you guys have this book. It's from the Libraries of Hope, but it's so awesome. And I'm learning so much from it. There's just so many stories about just American history, and it's just a great place for us to start. I was going to do like the whole, what is that? American storybook, but it kind of wasn't what my 7-year-old was interested in at that time. So we started with this, and he's really liked it. So I just want to share that with you guys.
That is wonderful. So that was American history stories. There was one other that you shared that I missed. So come back just for a sec, Abby. I got We the People, American History Stories, and the 1776 report. Oh yeah, the Star Spangled Banner.
And these are by Peter Spire.
I love him.
So yeah, they're fun.
And they're fly books.
They're what kind of
Look
books?
at the fly at the back.
Oh, that's very cool. I like that. I love that your kids feel comfortable sharing, moms. I love that. And what I thought was so cool about the We Heart Share 2 weeks ago that I went to was that your kids are so excited about having their own Zoom meeting to come to and get to share and talk about well-educated heart learning. I think that's super fun. Really, really cool. Okay, Lindsay and Lindsay, that's so cool that you changed the name on there. How fun is that Lindsay Bunting is with Lindsay Watkins today, and they and their kids are hanging out in Tennessee. I love it. Hello, hello. So fun. Okay, so can your kids hear? Are you guys, do you just have like a speaker on or something, Lindsay and Lindsay? Oh, they froze. Okay, we don't know exactly where they are. They were going to a waterfall this morning all together, and they had their kids together. And I don't know if you guys who know Lindsay Bunting's kids are, where, you're there? There you are. It's kind of freezing.
Yeah, they can hear you. We're losing
What? Say that again, Lindsay.
our the hills.
Can you guys hear her? No. Keep trying, but you must be in an area that's a little tough. So when you get us in clearly, come back again, because I want to hear about where you are and what you're doing.
I don't know if we'd be able to get on. Okay.
So where are you guys?
See, we are in Rock Island, Tennessee, the Rock Island State Park. Can you hear us?
Yeah, Rock Island State Park, Rock Island, Tennessee. That's,
Yeah.
and did you, go ahead.
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Sorry. Okay, so your kids are getting to know each other. That's awesome. That's so fun. So did you guys already do the waterfall?
Yes, we just went to the waterfall and did a little tiny hike along there and looked at the waterfall through some rocks. And now we're looking for the beach entry and like a picnic area. And we're gonna have a little picnic.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. Have such a great time. I mean, if you can be connected for this, great. And if you can't, don't worry. It's more important that you guys are enjoying that time together. So.
Just kind of be in and out.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Okay, so Cammie.
Cammie is here. She's on his wand, but Cammie's here. Did she introduce herself yet?
I introduced her. I brought her forward. So
Okay.
Like it or not, Cami got introduced.
Yeah.
Once you come on, you are part of us. So yeah, now you're stuck, Cami. So if you're close to your phone, Cami, can you say hey?
Yes, I can. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. It's totally fine. So did you come with any questions, thoughts, ideas, anything that you want to throw out there?
I don't know, not at the moment. I know like I've really been, looking into a lot of things and slowly implementing things with my kids, and I don't know. I guess I'm at the point now where I just wanted to make sure that I was in the right place. So I just felt like the mother of influence was like doing this mom group was where I needed to really get myself prepared to fully be there for my kids with what they needed.
I think that's so wise, Cami, because so often moms are so worried about getting started with their kids learning that they forget that step. So good for you. That's awesome. And if any of my moms on here could share a little bit with Cami about what you get from being in a Mothers of Influence group, that would be awesome. So I don't know who it's easiest for. Maybe, I don't know, Cadence, maybe? Yep.
Where to start? Oh my goodness. The support here is fabulous. I feel loved and accepted, and people are excited to see me and my children and excited to hear what I have to say. And so I just feel so valued as a person, and everybody here is kind of on the same track. I mean, we all have our own individual paths, but we're all drawn by the same beautiful things. And oh, I could go on. What do you want me to focus on?
Anything you're getting out of it, anything you feel like is why do you come on Fridays, even though you're a super busy mom with a million things to do?
Oh, because this gets me through the week. Oh, absolutely. This gets me through the week. That and Sunday, but I need people there to talk to and to, I don't know, I have friends here, but I don't see them that much, especially with the COVID stuff. I live in Washington, so it's still a lot more shut down than other places. So this has been just wonderful. That's all I have here.
That's awesome. Thanks, Cadence.
Can I ask
Yeah.
maybe to like get to know the women and maybe a little bit about like their families or when they started implementing things or I don't know, just anything, just so I can get to know where they're from. And
yeah, absolutely. Good idea.
Well, I guess I can go.
Hi, Cami. Oh, go ahead,
No,
Cadence.
Linnell, please. I have to collect my thoughts.
All right. I'm Linnell Sempol Tagatul. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, 30 minutes north. I'm originally from Hawaii, and my husband is from Mexico, and we have 4 children. I don't know if you're near and can see, but there's my oldest, Benji, and there's Sammy at the front, and that's Nate in the middle, and my daughter is Itzel with my husband, Ruben. And so that's our family. And I started doing Well Educated Heart about a year and a half ago. I homeschooled my oldest son for kindergarten this past year, and it was wonderful. It was better than I could have imagined. My husband has always wanted us to homeschool our children, but I was always really resistant and hesitant, mainly because I didn't think I could handle the balance between household and parenting and school. Hi, Izzy. And so Well Educated Heart provided me with tools and with understanding, to understand what my role is as a mother. And it gave me encouragement to know that I can do it. And actually, I'm a really good candidate to be able to do it. And then meeting with these women has really helped me to find community. It has allowed me to share ideas. And also, maybe the more you get into Well Educated Heart, the more you'll find that it will set you apart from a lot of people. And so meeting with our group allows me to have like-minded connections and support for the different things that we're doing. For example, it's not very common to spend 3 hours a day outside. It's not very common to be doing plays in your house and letting your kids explore their interests. So those kinds of things where we have this support and connection, people to share with, and people who get excited about it with you. And so I plan to continue using Well Educated Heart. There's a lot of philosophy, like the way you approach learning and life and living, that is really enriching and fulfilling. It really helps us to find joy in motherhood and joy in learning, and it helps us to recognize the beauty all around us.
I love that, Linnell. That was beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Linnell's our like sum up person at the end of these meetings. She can always collect her thoughts. She always shares things in such a beautiful way. I'm so impressed. I'm always thinking, okay, we need to turn these meetings over to Linnell. Cadence, would you like to share, or Lindsay or Rachel? Who wants to share next? We are sharing with Cami Figueroa, who's on here. It says Juan Figueroa. Cami is a friend of Lindsay Bunting's and Lindsay Cardall's. Cami is new to Well Educated Heart. She thought that it would be wise to get involved with the Mothers of Influence group, which is so smart. But she wanted to meet each of us and kind of hear a little bit about us, our families, where we are, why we are doing this, things like that, how it's benefiting. So whoever wants to come on next.
Okay, I'm gonna make mine really quick before something happens here. I'm Cadence, and I have 3 kids under 8. We live in Washington State, and Linnell pretty much just summed up everything perfectly. So thank you, Linnell. I've been doing Well Educated Heart for probably 2 years, but I've just only barely been starting to get into it myself. I kind of jumped in without knowing some of the resources or realizing the order of some things, but it really doesn't matter because eventually I got to the part where I'm like trying to do stuff myself, and that's really where I should have started, but it's okay. Anyway, that's me really quick.
I love it, Cadence. Okay, who else?
Well, Cami knows me and my story, but what I like about this group is that we are all unique, but we are all alike. So not all of us even homeschool. Some of us have older kids and have younger kids, but this is just a place where we can come together and just get support with parenting, teaching, momming, loving ourselves, feeding ourselves, you know, in every way possible. And it's just so great because, you know, I told you guys, like, I don't really have a lot of friends close by that I can, like, you know, talk about like general conference or who like parent the same way I do, or even understand why I homeschool, you know. So this has just been so nice. And I have had a few conversations with Cami too. Cami's really awesome. So you guys are gonna really like her.
Thanks, Lindsay. You're always so positive. I love that. Rachel, do you have a sec?
Sorry, I have a needy dog right now, apparently. How did you even get in here? Okay. Whew, sorry, I'm trying to collect my thoughts. Okay, I get it. Okay, I feel bad because I missed some of what was said, but I guess the short, okay, really, just sit nice. Okay, I guess the short of what, okay, so you're asking us to kind of share what brought us to Well Educated Heart and kind of where we've gone with that.
And kind of who you are, where you live, your family,
Okay.
A little bit about you.
Okay. I live in Texas. I have 5 kids. My oldest is 17 and my youngest is just turned 7. And this has just actually been our first year homeschooling. We always have public schooled, and we jumped in and committed to homeschooling. And I think even if we didn't I found Well-Educated Heart because I was looking for homeschool resources. But even if we didn't homeschool, I just think there are so many beautiful, wonderful things about the Well-Educated Heart philosophy. And they're things that that I think I was already implementing in certain ways, but it's given me maybe a better focus. And so one of the things I love about Well-Educated Heart, in specific with my youngest, who had a really terrible year in public kindergarten. And it has been really good for me to let go of some of the like learning have to be a very specific way. And it's really given me a bigger vision for what it really looks like to learn from the heart. And like, for example, she really was behind. I mean, her kindergarten year was a COVID year anyway, so it was really only partial, but there were so many just behavior issues and other issues in school, and she just really struggled. School was long. She wanted nothing to do with reading or doing anything after school. It was a struggle. And so we've really had to look at things this year as we've been homeschooling and let go of some of what I thought it should be like. So a Well-Educated Heart has given me, I think, just a different perspective, because I see in letting go of the check boxes for all the things that it is allowing her to really embrace. Like when she feels excited about something, like her learning how to write has had almost nothing to do with a workbook and has had everything to do with the fact that she loves to plan a party. And she plans parties all the time. And she has started writing invitations all over my house. And she's learned how to write times that way. You know, she'll put like dance party in the basement, 7:30. And, you know, she's like, how do I write that? And she's learned the ... like what it means and how the hour is first. And it's things like that where she has just picked up in these little everyday things that it has had much less to do with a workbook and so much more to do with letting her follow what she is excited about. And excuse me, kind of where her heart is. We've done that with math, she hates to sit and be quizzed, but if you set up a little store and she can play store manager, she is all about figuring out the things or playing games and figuring out. So we've done a lot of game schooling, and it just kind of led that way, which really has been so good for her. This has also been good even for all my older kids, even though they're on a different learning path. You know, they're kind of fine tuning at this point, and it's, but I feel like it's given them just some direction in really learning what feeds their heart and the things that make them happy. And, you know, the other day, I can't even remember the composer, but my son just said, Mom, this composer is just my favorite. I just think people do not give him enough credit. Like, he is just so, his works are just magnificent. And I love that. I love that he has, you know, been able to look for that and experience that. So anyway, I feel like I'm now really just way talking too much, but I guess just the short, I think regardless of the age or where you're at in your educational journey, I think Well-Educated Heart has a place, whether your kids are in a public school or a private school or a homeschool. You can never go wrong by teaching kids how to identify love and passion and how it feels to really learn something, not just to know it for a test, but when you are really teaching them how to learn and to grow. That is what I've really felt with Well-Educated Heart, and to feel that excitement when something clicks and you're like, oh my gosh, and I see this here, and I see how this connects with this, and history, and this part of history, and this was what was going on there. And when you see those big pieces come together, Like it has been magical, even just for me as a mom. I'm like, I never learned this stuff in school. Like I feel so excited. And I love that they feel excited to learn too. Even though sometimes that excitement is on a different level, like with my youngest. And anyway, everybody's at their own stage, but it's been really good to see how they each have used this in their life. So sorry, that was really very long.
No, that was so great. That was so wonderful. I love that you shared and gave those examples too, because that's so important to see how learning happens so naturally if we let it, if we kind of get out of the way and let that natural learning happen. So, and like Linnell was sharing earlier with her example of setting goals, and the you setting goals, you being the example, you leading out and being the model, modeling that behavior, your children will follow. That's how that works. And it's hard to imagine, it's hard to get that into your head if you know, until you've done it. But that's kind of, if you ever talk to somebody maybe who unschools and you think, I love that idea, I can see some value in it, but I can't get away from the structure and the routine, you know, maybe this kind of is a little bit like that, and it's a new way of thinking about education. But really, public education, that model, and like we've said, we have moms here that homeschool, moms that part homeschool, moms at private school, moms at public school, just everything. And well-educated heart is really for moms. No matter how your children are being educated, it's for you. It's for your heart. But it's just, I can't even remember where I was going. But I know that, I know that all of this is for our hearts, and it makes such a big difference. Oh, when we model. So as we model those things, everybody within our circle of influence is affected. And depending on what we're modeling, it's either a positive or a negative. And we have the opportunity to influence for good. So I think that there's such power in that. And when we use the arts, so when we're using storytelling and music, art, poetry, nature, when we're using those things, filling our hearts with those things, my goodness, look what has happened to just our group, the growth that we can see in each other, the knowledge, the ideas that we have come to understand more deeply. I was thinking it would be fun to share with Cami also kind of how we've changed the way that we view motherhood and homemaking, some of those thoughts that we've had about the nature of what we do and how it was designed to make room. Anybody want to address that? I know Melissa's here too, and Melissa's hot on that topic. But I don't know what her availability is. But do you remember, you know what I'm talking about, moms? How we've kind of, I can't remember the phrase that somebody used that was so perfect, but about there being time built into, like the tediousness of motherhood or something allows for the things to happen. Do you remember, Melissa?
And I don't have the quote memorized, but it talked about how the activities that mothers do allow them to be close to their children and easily interrupted to care for their children.
That's what it was. And that was from you, right?
Yeah.
You're remembering that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Easily interrupted. I love that. I need to remember that. I talked to so many people about that after you brought that quote to us, Melissa. I think that's beautiful. So would you like to speak on that a little bit more? Just sharing that kind of what you've realized about that with Cami, who's one of our new moms.
Hi, Cami. Sorry, I just got on. I'm not sure what we've been talking about.
Yeah, no worries. And I know I'm throwing you in, but I promise if you just speak to that idea, what you brought to us, that you'll be right on. And Cami is where Juan Figueroa. That's Cami.
Okay. I actually am really, really bad at this. I'm a get a tap, follow through with it kind of person. Mm-hmm. And so little kids, I really struggle with. I'm really good with teenagers. So my poor children I'm learning with them. But reading that quote about having mothers in the home have skills or do the work that was easily interruptible. Every once in a while when I'm washing the third load of dishes that day, or you guys, this is my laundry right now. We've been on vacation for 2 weeks. And today is laundry day because we have no clothes. And so right now we are doing school while we do laundry. So I'll have, one kid doing an online program, and I'm doing math facts with another one. And we just went on a walk to take a little break. And instead of just plowing through the laundry, which is what I want to do, I realize this is probably going to take all day, just with breaks in between as we get through it. And my kids are fine with that. They're fine with the 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. That's how their brain works. And so I'm the one that struggles with it.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that needs to adapt to accommodate their and encourage their learning and their needs and their fun little desires.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Melissa. And isn't that amazing that spending 5 minutes, just stopping what you're doing, because it is interruptible, spending 5 minutes with a child, one-on-one or a few on one, is so incredibly significant to them. That's sometimes all it takes, and then you can go back to the thing that you wanted to be working on, and then you're interrupted again and you take that time. And I love how it's naturally just how that works, how it's set up. Anybody else want to comment on that? What they've learned about that, how that's been of value to realize these things. And thank you again, Melissa, for bringing that to us, because that was such a great quote.
Yeah. If nobody else can talk, I had a couple things I just had thought about I've been on the last few weeks.
Great.
That I felt like I should share, and I don't know if they're pertinent to what we've talked about, but
doesn't matter.
I should share them, so I'm going to. We've been learning about the Baltic countries, the Baltic states, and one thing I learned is that when they were trying to get their independence from the Soviets, they came together and they gained their independence through protest by singing folk songs. They gathered in the streets and stopped doing everything else and just sang their folk songs. And eventually, you froze. Did I freeze?
I can still hear you.
Okay.
You're good now.
And through singing all of their folk songs together as countries, as large communities, they gained their independence, which I think is spectacular.
I think that's beautiful.
How that happened. I've never heard that. I mean, I've never studied the Baltic states either, but I thought that was spectacular that the communities gathered and sang their songs, and that's how they gained their
So like the Soviets left because the singing was so annoying. Sorry, I'm trying to understand what. I'm kidding. No, I made it like solidarity, and they wanted to be their own people again, or.
Yeah, they were like, we're done with the Soviets, so we're just gathering and we're going to show our independence by singing our folk songs, not the Soviet ones, and they can deal.
I love that. Just the feelings, the patriotic feelings that come from those kinds of things, and like Caden said, the solidarity that just brings them together, reminds them about what's important and that they're united for a cause and things but in a very positive way. I love that.
They didn't come together through protests, violent protest riots. They didn't come together through, newspapers. They came together through song, through folk song.
That is really, really cool. So that was the Baltic states. That's very cool. I love that. And I love that you're learning things. Go ahead.
The second thing is unrelated to that, but I weave. I have a floor loom and I weave. And one of the tools that you can use in weaving is called a temple. And the temple is a tool that you can use to keep the edges straight. Well, I was working on my loom thinking about my temple and the temple opening came back and I just had the thought, like, the temple is what keeps the line straight. It keeps everything straight in our minds and everything organized. It made me think of like the straight and narrow path in the scriptures that we talk about. The temple is an LDS important building for those that might not be LDS. But I know a lot of this group is, so but But yes, in weaving, there's a tool called a temple, and it keeps the edges straight and keeps the weaving straight. So you have a nice, neat, organized piece. And just correlating that to the temple and how it can help us stay straight and even and know where the edges are and keep those boundaries and whatnot. I just like that thought. So
that is very cool. And I didn't know that. I didn't know about that tool or that the purpose of that. Very cool. Great analogy. I like that.
So sorry, we can get back to
No, it's great. You know how it goes here, right? We bring whatever we bring and it works. So we share the things we're learning. We share our struggles. We share anything. We ask questions. It's all good here, Melissa. You know that. So thank you for sharing those things. I love it. Anybody else? Anyone else have anything more to share with Juan Figueroa, who is Cami, our new mom, and is learning about Well-Educated Heart and kind of wants to get to know us? Abby, are you coming on?
Yeah, I think so. Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. Yeah, we live in Utah. I have three boys.
What part of Utah, Abby?
Orem.
Okay.
So just like by Provo. And oh geez, I lost you guys. Hold on a sec.
Okay, we're still here.
And I'm also trying to watch my boys at the playground.
Yeah.
Anyways, we started this. My son was in kindergarten and we were doing like a distant learning type of thing and it wasn't going too well. It just seemed like I should just be homeschooling him. So I just decided to take that on with COVID. It kind of actually pushed me into it. And I had a friend that was very supportive and had done it before and kind of showed me the ropes and actually introduced me to the Libraries of Hope. And that's how I found you guys. And trying to think of what else I was gonna say. I don't know, it's just been, I haven't really immersed myself in the process very much, but since I decided to join this group, I would probably consider myself pretty inactive before I joined this group. And just this group has really helped me just realize that I need God in my life. And I actually started going back to church and started praying again. And I just want to say thank you for you guys. Just, it really is true that we all need community and we just need to know that we're loved and that we're all in this together.
Abby, thank you for sharing. That's so beautiful. And that makes me so happy to hear that. Good girl. Good for you. And so good for your children. That's wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Anybody else want to shine? Hey, there we go. That works. Who wants to take their turn to shine? That's so funny. I'm so silly. Okay. So Laura, welcome. Amy, come on. You're fine, Amy. Come back.
Okay. No, I just wanted to, the folk song thing. Well, first of all, I have 5 kids. They're ages 22 down to 11. And we've homeschooled on and off. Right now, we're not. But I was just the folk song thing that was mentioned a minute ago. So I teach marching band. It's kind of random. But the songs we're working on right now is a medley of railroad songs. And a lot of them are folk songs, like John Henry, if you know that song, John Henry had a little hammer or something like that. And these kids don't know any of the songs. So each week I've been introducing an old recording so they can hear what the songs were and kind of how they fit in culturally and what they talked about. And it's just been really interesting to see their reaction. Like, that's a really interesting story, you know, to be able to get some history and tying in marching band music to culture. So it's really cute. But also the idea of always wanting to learn as mothers, it keeps you sane. That's what I think of, just if you're keep learning and growing with them. And we haven't done Well-Educated Heart as a homeschool curriculum, but we have read a lot of the stories in history, and it's been fun, especially as we're going into patriotic season. My little 11-year-old just like, wait, we read that story. I know that story. And I just love that. It's fun to see when they start making connections. And my oldest daughter took US history last year, and there were a lot of times and she had questions, and the 11-year-old could explain to her what that story was about. It was kind of funny, but good at the same time. We've learned a lot about US history this year because of those two things. Anyway, that's it.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for sharing, Amy. That's awesome. And Amy's recovering from yet another surgery. So I'm glad that you're here with us. So just take it easy. Okay, let's see. Laura, we are, just so you know, we are talking about a few different things, but we're talking with a new mom who has joined us, and she's on here as Juan Figueroa. She's Cami. She's friends with Lindsay Bunting and Lindsay Cardall. She's been reading about and exploring Well-Educated Heart. She wanted to get to know us a little bit. So if you have a minute and want to share a little bit of your personal, anything, who you are, where you are, how many kids, why you do what you do, anything.
Well, sure. Quite broad and big.
That's where you get to do whatever you want.
Yeah, I have 5 kids. I live in Arizona. I don't know, I've been homeschooling for 3 or 4 years. Well-Educated Heart, I'm not like super involved in like it as a curriculum, but more of like a lifestyle, I guess. So
which fits really well, since Well-Educated Heart is for moms, really,
yes.
Right? So that works.
I kind of do my own version called Heart Schooling. I just really believe in love of learning, developing the love of learning. When I first started homeschooling, my first year was really overwhelming, and I threatened to put my kids in school every single day. And I fell into depression. I lost myself. And I was like, there's got to be a different way. And just a variety of things. Well-Educated Heart, when I found it, just resonated so well because it's kind of what I had already learned through my own experience of letting go of the curriculum, letting go of the not restrictions, but letting go of the standards, letting go of what everybody thinks I should do or what the world thinks I should do, and just follow my heart. And also let my kids' hearts lead their own education. And the more I let go and let them take control, the more I just felt like they loved learning and they learned more, and they retained the things that they were learning. And the whole first year after I let go of all the curriculum, we went to the library a lot. I let them check out books that they wanted to. It was all just like, what do you want to learn? And I really worked with each kid to learn their style of learning because each kid is so different. And it was really just learning about them and their desires and their hearts. And I don't know, that's just a little brief thing of me and kind of how I got on board with all of this. And then when I found this group, it just up-leveled all of it.
Thank you, Laura. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks.
That's so good. And Rachel Stevens, is that you, Rachel, on the iPhone? Are you near your phone, able to talk?
Yeah, I was on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh,
you want to
good.
share a little?
Okay. Sure. What do you want me to
Just
share?
a little. We are introducing ourselves and sharing a little bit about who, where we are, why, what, anything with Cami Figueroa, who is new with us. And has joined
good.
our little group. Yep.
Hi, Cami. So I have 2 kids, and I do homeschool. I've homeschooled for 2 years, and I'm going on my 3rd year. So I come from an education background. I was in elementary education, and I only taught for a year while I was pregnant, and I was actually an intern only, so I got paid like half as a teacher. But that's okay. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience, but I was like, never want to do that again because that's really hard. But I think, I don't know, what I learned from that experience and from being a mom and homeschooling myself, like education is just such an individual thing. And I think as a mom and even a father, like as parents, I think we have access to revelation and what the Lord wants us to do and what he wants for our children. And
you know, in that public school setting, teaching fourth graders, I found a lot of really great kids that I really loved. And they were like my own kids at the time. I didn't have my own kids. So, I mean, there are teachers that really do care about those kids out there like I did. But it's so hard. There was 30 of them. And there were some kids that they could barely add and subtract. And I needed to teach them long division. So, and then there was other kids that just excelled and they were asking for more and more math and harder math. And so it was a sad setting. And I was like, I don't want my kid to feel like they're either way behind the norm, right? Or they're way ahead and they're bored and they're done and they want to move on. So anyway, just evaluating that. And then I had a friend that recommended homeschooling. She's like, I'm going to homeschool. And she just had like little kids. Her kids, well, her kid at the time, she only had one and I only had one. Her kid was younger than mine, but she was like, oh yeah, this is my plan and I'm going to do this. And I've always admired her so much. She was just so intelligent and so well read and so good at music and just everything. So I was like, well, if you're thinking I should homeschool or you're recommending it, maybe I should. So she recommended some books I should read. And I started with Thomas Jefferson Education. And I really loved that book. It really jived with me and sat well with me. Another thing I didn't share about my schooling experience, I was one of the kids that was always behind. And for my whole life, I felt like I was one of the dumb kids. And that's really sad. Like, I don't think a kid should ever feel like that. Even if they're like actually handicapped, I think every kid should feel like they can learn and that they're loved. And I felt that from some teachers. And that's why I became a teacher, because I wanted kids to feel that. Anyway, back to my story. So I read that wonderful book, Thomas Jefferson Education. I love it. And I look into it and I love reading. I love classics. I was really excited about that whole idea. I don't know if all of you know, I know Lori knows what Thomas Jefferson Education is. But my cousin, she was doing that a little bit, but she kind of likes to branch out and do a lot of things. So she was homeschooling as well. And she, of course, recommended that book to me. And she's like, well, if you like Thomas Jefferson Education, then you'll love Libraries of Hope. And I loved it even more because I felt like it gave me more freedom, I guess, and more like direction on what I should do. I love the rotation idea. So I went with that, and I mainly just use that. And then I use, we are enrolled in a school called My Tech High here in Utah. So it's basically just to get funding, like, so I can get money for my books and that kind of thing. So that's what we're doing. And we use Well Educated Heart. That's what we use. And I mean, you know, math, I've purchased all the books that she's recommended, like literature. Anyway, so real quick, I'll show you my library here. So I have 2 bookshelves in the front, and I have organized them based on the rotation. So I really like that. It makes it really easy to do that. And then each month I don't pull out every single book, because some I have a lot of books, but I put it in my basket here. So, and then my kids can come and I can come and we can look at these books. And of course, if they want to read different books on the shelf, or I'm all for that. I'm not like, oh, we have to only do the rotation. We can't do anything else. We can't read any other books. So that's what I do. And yeah, if you have any like questions about Educated Heart, that's pretty much all I do. So
I love it. And Laura, Rachel, before you go, can you share about We Heart Shared also?
Oh yeah. So I, with my background in teaching, I really love children, and Well Educated Heart is awesome. And, moms are there for each other. We've got mothers of influence, but I really felt like we need a group for our kids. And yeah, some people have co-ops and some people don't. But I just wanted kids to feel like there's this uniform learning that's happening, not just like with their co-op or people they live close to, but people that are from everywhere. And in our share meetings, what we do is the kids will share anything that they're learning. If they're learning piano, if they're 3 and they made a little fort, then they can share that. Or if they made something out of Legos. Or we've had a kid, I think he's 15 years old, and he is so good at the piano, and he has so many other good talents too. But it's cool to see, like, the older kids can inspire the little ones, and then the little kids just want to share. They want to share everything. And that's just a natural thing for them. And it's such an important part of learning. So I really wanted the kids to have a group to be able to share and have a safe place to get excited about their learning and see that other kids are learning similar things. Like, oh, I'm playing the piano too. And maybe I could learn that song just like that kid did. So anyway, that's the group.
And Rachel, you are so good with them. You're so encouraging, and so you know the kids, you're getting to know them and talking to them, and you know their names, and you're inviting them, and you're so complimentary. You say things to them that I think, wow, I would have loved to have heard, that type of a comment, because it's not just a, hey, good job. You say something about what it is they're doing. You do a wonderful job of that. It's very
thanks.
Sweet. Yeah.
Thank
it's
you.
Really sweet.
Oh, we also forgot to mention, we had your son yesterday on. So I also try to have some special guests, like people that are very talented at something. They've been working on it for years, and they can model what it's like to have worked on something, and they're really proficient at it. So I try to get a variety of people.
That was really fun. You were very good, you guys, to accommodate him, and him having that first experience doing that and everything. So thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Cami, how's that for some introductions? Aren't these wonderful?
Sorry, I have my phone. Oh, it's been wonderful, and so many that I've been able to relate with and say oh yeah, I felt that, and oh, I've been there, and yeah, that's what we're trying, and yeah, it's been great hearing everybody's.
Good. I'm glad. And I'm going to read something to all you moms. Some of you saw it. It was a post that was on Well Educated Heart, the Facebook group, and I loved it. So here, let me share, and then you can share if you have thoughts or feelings about it. So this is from a mom, and she said, I'm seeking advice from the wonderful women here. Since I began implementing Well Educated Heart into our home, I have noticed so many positive changes in our home, my children, and mostly myself. I can truly feel myself molding into a more kind and gentle person. It feels as though my eyes have been opened, which is such a wonderful thing. However, I have felt a sense of overwhelm, discouragement, and grief at the state that our society is in, the more open my eyes are. I feel as though when I go to social gatherings, I have a really hard time relating to others, and even wanting to be around others. Yesterday at a barbecue, I felt completely drained, saddened, and overall yucky after listening to worldly conversation about the latest fashions, how busy everyone has been, that they rarely see their kids, and gossip. Let me be clear, I used to participate in this type of chat, so I'm passing no judgment. But as I feel myself changing, it really drains me to be around this. And it takes me a couple days to brush it off and not be upset over it. I feel as my focus is to refine our family in the well-educated heart way, I am getting more unsociable and becoming more of an outsider in social groups. And I'm not sure if this is a good or a bad thing. Can anyone else relate to this? I would love some advice. So there's lots of good comments here, but I'm just curious what you think about that. What are your thoughts?
I can definitely relate to that. I've felt that a lot. I'm actually, especially this year with COVID. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really hard. But I love that Marlene, she gave us all these great resources to help us to change and see the world differently. And but then, yeah, you feel like a sense of loneliness in a lot of social gatherings, even sometimes in my own ward, which is really unfortunate. But I definitely feel like the mothers group, she's made like this safety web, like you can join a mothers group, and that's where you can get your support and feel your connections. And that's another reason I created We Heart Share, so then we can have like a bunch of kids that are connecting, that are having the same values, and they can see that, all from like everywhere.
Right. Because if we're having those experiences and those feelings, then our kids probably are or might, also. So I think that was definitely an inspired thing that you have done, Rachel. And I'm really, really grateful that you did that. Cadence?
Something really quick. Yes. Before I found this group, I felt that way all the time, just really drained from social interactions. And I do try to participate and have fun with everybody, but it was really draining for me. And I found that coming to these makes me so filled with light and truth and just confidence that now wherever I go, I feel like I can be this encourager and kind of like the yeast that leavens the whole, you know what I mean? But if I didn't have this group and the other positive things in my life, it's harder to do that. So this group has been amazing.
I love that. Thank you. Cammie.
Yes. So I've actually noticed, I saw that post on the Facebook, and I noticed some of the comments talked about not always running away from those conversations, but being sure that we are the light in those conversations and sharing what we have learned and, and all this stuff and bringing that light to others. And I really thought that was neat. And I've noticed just the past few days and like all the conversations I've been having with people, like even just at a birthday party yesterday, I think almost everyone that I talked to, I was able to tell them about Well-Educated Heart and like how amazing it is and how it works on building character and this love of God, and how that's more important to me than living by the standards that, we have in this world of education. And everyone that I've talked to and shared it with, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes so much sense. That's so true. And or I have other people I've talked to, they're like, I've been feeling that way a lot too. And it's really, my mind has been open to that. And I've noticed a movement of this way of education, like more and more, and how many eyes are being opened to that love of nature and that love of God and building of character and the love of learning and not pushing and forcing learning. And luckily we have a really strong community here in the homeschool here in Bakersfield. We have this program that my kids have gone to since we started homeschooling, and they try and implement a lot of things that are very similar, and they follow Charlotte Mason a little bit, and it's all outside. It's called Outsiders. And so that's kind of where our learning started. But in the beginning, I was like, okay, we have this, but my kids were public schooled before I was public schooled. So in my mind, I only knew that. But I've been able to I've homeschooled for 3 years. So as time's gone on, I've learned about Well-Educated Art in the very beginning. And I was like, okay, that sounds scary. I know that sounds really good, but how do I do this? And every year I would kind of come back to Well-Educated Heart, and then I would get scared away, and then I would come back again. And this year I was like, you know what? Every year, all I feel is that the most important thing is to teach my kids the love of God and to teach good character. And if that's all I ever get to teach them and they don't learn everything else, that was the most important thing to me. And so like this year I finally was like, no, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to get through all of this, and we're going to, implement this whole Well-Educated Heart. And my kids have really taken to it. But I guess, to shorten that up, I really have seen like a movement towards this a lot with God and nature and stuff. But
that's awesome. That's awesome. So you're seeing it. You're aware and noticing those changes. I love it. Okay, mamas, we have another new mom with us too. And poor Emily, she was looking for the link that I told her I was going to send her, and I forgot to send it. So luckily I looked at my phone and saw that she'd sent me an email. So this is Emily. And Emily, I know you're jumping right in, but can you just tell us where you are and like how many kids you have and kind of just a little snippet about you, where you are in your well-educated heart journey. We have another new mom on today too, so that's fun.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lori.
Sure.
You were very fast getting back to me. I was surprised. I live in Southeast Idaho. I have 5 children. My oldest is turning 24 this summer, and my youngest is 12. I just have one child that I homeschool. She's 14, and then the other kids are at public school. And I have heard about well-educated heart a while ago, but really it started for me to study about it this spring.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, and I hope you're loving it. It's kind of a different transition, but if you can remember that it's for you, and not have to worry too much about where you're going with it yet, then it'll be such a blessing.
I've really enjoyed it. We got my book of delights and just kind of have started there, and I found some gems already.
Yeah, you see all the moms nodding their heads like, oh, book of delights. Yes, yes. I love it. Okay, so we're just involved in a discussion about all the good things about our lives, about being involved with this type of learning and the influence it is on our lives. We talked a little bit about the fact that being a mother and a homemaker allows us to be those callings, those jobs allow us to be interruptible, which is what our children need. And I love that. That's something that Melissa shared with us a couple months ago. Okay, what else, moms? What else do you want to share or talk about? Where do you want to go from here?
I'd like to comment on that last post that you shared as everyone was talking. It just kind of reminded me of before I ever got into homeschooling, I was actually anti-homeschooling. And the reason is because it really rubbed me wrong the way homeschooling moms talked about homeschooling. Like I felt like they were above everybody. Well, for just a second, please. No, sorry. And it just kind of seemed self-righteous and just, it just didn't jive with me. And so I've been super paranoid and careful about that as I've become a homeschool mom, and so passionate about homeschooling. And a lot of women in my crowd and my family, I'm the only homeschooling mom. And so it's kind of makes me nervous in like how I talk about it, because sometimes I feel like I can come across that same way because we're so passionate.
Yeah,
but one thing that, like, as a coach, that has one skill that I feel like has really, really helped me is learning to hold space for people, to recognize that everybody's in their own place in their journey, and that where they're at, it's not wrong to be where they are, and to really just like hold that neutral space where you're not judging right or wrong. You're not judging positive or negative. It's just like, it just is. They are where they are, you are where you are, and nobody's better or worse off. I have thought a lot about, as I've become a coach and learned how to hold space for people when I'm coaching them, especially when, people bring all kinds of things that you may not agree with, their lifestyle and things like that. And you just have to be neutral and hold space for them, and you guide them and ask them questions. You help lead them to their answers. Rather, it's not like counseling, not like you're giving them advice. You're just helping them find their way and kind of discover their inner genius. But what's interesting is I was a missionary, and I feel like if I had this skill as a missionary, I would have been such a better missionary, because I feel like, I don't know, if you guys, if those of you who are missionaries, we talk about being an instrument in the hands of God, where he's literally like guiding you and you are a tool. And it's interesting when I remember like analogies where like a surgeon uses a scalpel or uses like a tool, and the surgeon is the one that's in charge, and you're just this tool that's kind of just being moved around, and you're just like lifeless. You're not really doing anything. He's working through you. And so that's kind of how I feel as a coach, or even as a parent, when I'm learning to hold space for somebody. I'm just neutral. I'm just lifeless in a way. Like I'm not really thinking, he's thinking through me. Like I'm just like a neutral space, a conduit, if that makes sense. And so I think that is, I don't know if trying to relate this back to sorry, it's kind of a long comment, but just being able to hold space for people and be neutral and not judge, and everybody is where they're at. And I think that is the best way to also teach people about homeschooling and help them to want to come this way. If that makes any sense. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Kind of a long comment.
No, it's great. And as you could, I'm sure, very easily imagine that in my early days, I would be that person who would have offended you. Not meaning to, but just being, excited about what I was doing, overwhelmed a bit about what I was doing, thinking it was the coolest thing and wanting everybody else to do it. But I would have said the wrong things.
I am just as guilty, especially when I start talking about public school, because it's like, man, I do not have good feelings about the public school system. But, it is what it is. And there's, reasons why everybody's in public school too. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's for them at that. And even every child is so different. Some kids in one family might be public schooled and some kids might be homeschooled. It just really depends. And we really just can't judge other people's journeys and choices.
Yeah, exactly. And as we try to bring up here occasionally, it is such an individual thing. And we know that. And hopefully we all use the opportunity we have to receive direction and inspiration about that. So we're doing what our kids need. And now, mamas, now that Emily's back in front of her computer, I want you all to nod your head to let her know that if her kids come in and out, do we care? Isn't that part of what we do every time while we're here? It's totally fine. So don't worry about that. I can see it in mom's eyes when they're first on here and their kids come in. They're like, oh no, no, you're a mom. Your kids are going to be in and out, and I love them. I like to see them and wave to them and everything. Anyway, Lindsay.
I was going to say, we like it when your kids peek in. It's fun. But I also wanted to comment on that Facebook post that you talked about, because I feel like I have talked about that in these discussions in the last couple of months. Like, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know, as always, Linnell just I tried to express my feelings and Linnell was like, I think you're feeling this. And I'm like, yes, that's what I'm feeling. But I just feel like the more my heart has changed and softened and love, I'm spilling out love. The more I'm well, it's also the world too. And I think COVID and being away from church for a year, I think it's just a combination of a lot of things. But, I had told you guys, I just feel just more and more I'm just I think a lot of I'm just set apart from people. I just feel different than a lot of people. And that girl had said in that post, it's I had considered just leaving a group of friends. And I think I told you guys that I prayed about it and I had a feeling that, or I had an answer that they need you. And so I stayed. And then I had this feeling of she was saying, I didn't use the word, it was draining, but I felt drained. And then I got another prompting that, the scripture said, don't be weary in well doing, you're doing good and it can be frustrating, but just keep on keeping on, and so it's just, and I feel like I'm still doing that. I'm still trying to just keep on keeping on. And I never shared how I learned about the Well-Educated Heart, because I don't feel like I have a great story to share, but my sister-in-law introduced me to it, and she has homeschooled all 6 of her children, and they are unbelievable. They're just that family that just amazing in every way, and that is seeing their success with homeschooling is what helped my husband to accept me doing it. And anyways, so she kind of just introduced me to it and then let it be. So I have done that with 2 of my friends. I said, here's the Well-Educated Heart, start out with the Catch the Vision and then come back. Because my sister-in-law, the word she said was, here it is, return and report. And that's all she said about it. She didn't tell me anything oh, it's so great, it's this and that. She didn't. So I've done that with 2 friends and I haven't heard back. So I hope that they are going through it. And, but anyways, I just feel just by going out and just trying to I'm just trying to spill out all of this change of heart, and I don't know. So I can totally relate to that girl. I kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry, but I can totally relate to her. But it just all has to do with the change of heart and just keep trying to. Oh yes, I remember. So my sister-in-law told me about it a year ago, and then I visited with her again this spring, and I had told her that I had gone on vacation with 2 of my sisters, and that I had tried to because I had told her that we have these really good long gospel lessons. It's kind of my minimum. If we don't get to school, that's okay. As long as we get we call it a gospel lesson. You could call it a morning basket, but it's heavily religious stuff. But with other, my book of delights and poetry, other things mixed in. but it's heavily, so I just call it a gospel lesson because I don't know what to call it, but that's like my minimum. And I've told her about it and how much I love it and how much it has changed our home and attitudes and everything. And she asked me like, oh, you were on vacation with them. How did that go? Were you sharing with them? And I told her like, well, I tried, but like the kids just wanted to, because they were with cousins, I don't see very often. Like they just wanted to play with their cousins, and I kept trying to tell them to sit down, and just it was like a failure. Like, but like when we go visit her, she just goes on with her day, and we're just like so influenced by like the love in her home and like how she does all this stuff. And I'm just like, man, how does she do it? And anyways, I told you we have cousins here now, and every morning we've sat down and done our little morning routine, like during breakfast. I feel like that's the best time because they're captive. And we, I've had them like reading scriptures and practicing articles of faith. And I've had them, I've been reading to them out of President Nelson's book and out of The Friend and copying down poetry, like all these things. And so it doesn't feel like they're doing school. They don't think they're being home taught, but it's just like a good like routine. And so like I had tried it months ago and it was an epic fail. And, be not weary in well doing, just keep going. And I'm trying it again and it's actually working now. So it's like, it might take months and, but sorry, this is getting really long, but over time, like Heavenly Father is going to help you to get stronger in it, like the holding space thing, like the more you practice it, the stronger you're going to get at it, so I've been like, I've strengthened it in my own home enough that now I can kind of bring in a couple of extras, but it just takes time and practice. And I definitely have a long ways to go. I mean, I feel like I'm only ankle deep in the well-educated heart, but it has just been so, even that little tiny bit has just been so influential in my life. So I just love it. And I just love you guys.
You are so sweet, Lindsay. Thank you for sharing all that and all your bubbly energy. You know what I loved on the little Marco Polo group was how excited everybody was about the idea that there could possibly be two of you in the world, because Lindsay has an identical twin. And that was just so fun to have everyone go, oh, there are two of you? Oh my goodness, how wonderful.
I'll have to bring her in sometime when she needs her next.
Yeah, you will. That's so funny. And I love that you say you're only ankle deep. I love that visual, and look at the influence. I mean, I don't think that's probably true because you are exuding it, but look at what a difference it makes to to have this be in our lives. I just can't get over the huge blessing that it is in our lives, but it's the Lord's way, don't you think?
Definitely.
Yeah. I love that, Emily. Ankle deep is still wet. And Emily, are you, when you say I love your floor, Lindsay, meaning like floor goals? Like,
yeah, I mean like the floors and ceilings that you guys have discussed in the past. I have a similar thing. Like these are the basics. We get this done and I count it as a school day.
Absolutely. And for me, so many times, like I did, like Lindsay, I stopped calling it school. So my kids weren't going, oh, and we were just learning. We were learning, and learning is fun. Learning is wonderful, and now my kids just never stop pursuing learning. And it was my dream, was for my kids to have a strong foundation, to know that to know how to respond to the Spirit, really, to know how to hear the promptings. And the second thing was to love learning. So, man, it's just wonderful. This is how it's done. Lindsay.
Also, like the well-educated heart, I learned a couple of things. When COVID first started a year ago, back in like March, when everybody went home for the very initial, my friend set up a little like school room in her house, and she had like these little alphabet cards set up in a little like whiteboard. And I was like, oh, that just looks like a cute little school. I need to do that. And just a couple of days ago, someone had posted on one of these pages like, oh, should I do a schoolroom or should I not? And in my head, I'm like, oh no, you don't need a schoolroom. Like, I have learned, the well-educated heart has taught me, like, we're not doing school at home. We're just learning through life, And also, like, that's the one thing. And the other thing is, like, I have learned that my learning didn't stop at high school or college. Like, I have so much to learn now. And like, my book list is just like so long. I have all these books I need to read and want to read. And I've been in a book club for a few years, but I don't know. Anyways, I used to like Google like what book should we read? Because I didn't know what I wanted to read. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, my list is so long, you know? So it's just like, I have learned that I have so much to learn and that I want to learn it too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And I love the enthusiasm that we hear in your voice. That's so great. Oh, that's so great. Okay, our kids need beautiful backyards and libraries. Oh, I feel like I started learning more after graduating because then I got to learn what I wanted. Yes, I graduated a year early from high school because of that. I thought, okay, if I can just get out of here, be done with it. That's just my personal experience. But I wanted to decide. There were so many things I wanted to learn about, and those things were not on the list. So it's like, get it done. And then the world is open and I can do anything I want. So I love that thought. I liked Caden's comment too up here. My husband was the same way about home education, unsure. And now he is super on board and supportive, having seen and experienced more. And that's so common. So very common. And when you run into moms who their husbands aren't on board yet, give them the support that they need, because that's hard when you're doing it without that support initially, you know, and they're going to come on board because they're going to see the beauty and the blessings of it. But that's tough. Other comments, ideas, you know, those libraries. Do you know when Marlene talks about libraries of hope, do you know why she calls it, have you read that part, why she calls it plural libraries of hope, that it's not the library of hope that we go to access online? She said it's because she's not trying to say, here it is, this is the library, this collection of books. She's talking about the libraries that now exist all over the world and are being built as these moms start putting together their own libraries. So now we have libraries of hope out there all over. And I love that. I love that. And a library, it doesn't just include books, right? It's going to include any of the resources from any of these arts that we use. So anything that we use for nature study, you know, maybe little binoculars or your nature journals, music, CDs or playlists that you use, or instruments that you use, you know, art material, any of those things are part of your library. So I love that we share in these libraries of hope, and we can share with each other, right? The things that we have. So Cadence, were you going to say something, sweetie? Okay.
My kids are listening to the We Sing America.
Yes.
And screaming. So.
That's okay. That's part of being children. I have loved the posts I've run into lately. I don't even know, maybe not just posts, but things I've been reading that are reminding us that our children are children. Like, so many times you might catch yourself having expectations of your children that are completely unrealistic if you really would take that moment to step back. It's like you want them to be at your level, and that's not going to happen because they're not adults, they're children. And so if you can do that occasionally, take that step back and say, okay, wait a second, am I being realistic here? What is it that they should be doing right now? You know, what are their real expectations? And keep that in mind. That helps so much. It helps you be completely happy with where they are. And it helps them not feel discouraged all the time because they cannot possibly meet up with your, to your expectations. And I've shared this resource before. I'm going to share it again. In the book that, I don't know if it's still called this. I don't even know where you'd find it anymore. In fact, I'll try to look next time somebody's talking. But in the olden days, the church had a book called Teaching No Greater Call. And it was something else before that or something else after that. And I cannot remember. But in that book, there is a section called Age Characteristics of Children. And I will find that. But in this Age Characteristics of Children, I've shared this with moms so many times. Characteristics of children. It just tells what you can expect at different ages. So I would feel the impression from the Spirit to you go look at that list. And I would go look, and I would look at the age of my child, the age before, where they were and the age after where they were. And I would read those descriptions. All that happened was I was able to say, oh, okay, that's where they should be. Okay. And then as long as I could remember that, hold that in my brain, I could go along being a lot better balanced, I guess, and with my ideas of their expectations. So, okay, teaching no greater call. Thank you. Such a great resource. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Emily. That's great. So incredibly helpful. It also helps you to say, oh, my child's completely normal. This is fine. This is what they're supposed to be doing. Laura.
Yeah, can I take that one step further? Because I love that. But I do think also not all kids are the same. And I feel like sometimes when I've looked at things like that, I'm like, okay, this is the standard. And then if I'm measuring my kids against that, then there's room for feeling disappointed. I like to think that my kids are exactly where they're supposed to be, no matter what age they are. Because if I can, it's true. Wherever they're at, that's exactly where they're supposed to be, because that's where they are. Like, rather than trying to measure them against a standard or other children or where we think they should be, as soon as we just come to peace with what, because I have an older child who sometimes is, harder than my baby. It just doesn't, you can't compare. And every kid has a bad day, and every kid, some kids have good days, no matter what age they are. And so for me, and it's hard, it's constant practice to just practice that thought that, they are exactly where they are. They're exactly where they're supposed to be, no matter what age they are, no matter what the situation or circumstances. And that relaxes my expectation for me.
I love that too. I think that for some of our personalities, it helps so much to just kind of get an idea of this range, to know, okay, they're doing this thing that's so weird, but okay, it's within, it's within these ranges. But you're right, Laura, and that's super important to have that idea and keep that in our hearts about our children. And I'm putting in here, and all the people around us, that the idea that you just shared with us, that we are where we're supposed to be right now.
And just one more thing to add to that. And the reason that I like to think that is because then I show up better as a mom to support them. So if I'm thinking that they're not where they're supposed to be, or they should be somewhere, they should be different, or they should be or not, then I'm going to show up as a more impatient mom or feeling frustrated. It all comes from how I'm feeling and where I'm showing up as. And so that thought of they are exactly where they are, where they're supposed to be, helps me to show up in more patience and understanding, and to be a better mom for them, if that makes sense. Because you can't change where they're at. They are where they're going to be, no matter what. You can't change that. But thinking that thought helps me to show up better, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I like that. And I think obviously you're not saying that there's not room for improvement, and that there aren't things that we get as, okay, now we need to work on this, but just, this is where we are right now. Accept us where we are today. Love me now, right where I am.
Yeah. And in any change, and whether even when we're trying to work on things ourselves, if we're working out of shame or needing to change before we'll love ourselves, I have to be thinner before I'm going to love myself. I have to be better at this or whatever. You're never going to get there. It's going to take so much longer, and it's going to be short-term results. But the first step is always acceptance and peace with where you are, and love. That's the best way to work towards change, is to love yourself where you're at. And for your kids, is to love your kids and accept them exactly where they are, and not need them to change in order to love them more, or in order to be happy with where they're at, or whatever.
Yeah. I like that. And I can tell their two moms have thoughts. So you have to fight it out, Rachel and Emily. Who gets to go first?
Emily can go first. I don't know.
Oh, I'm waiting to hear from you, Rachel.
Oh, okay. Like I was saying earlier, I just felt so damaged from my schooling. And I think that's true. If we're not patient and we don't understand children, where they're at, maybe they're not ready to read yet when they're 5. I wasn't. I finally started reading when I was 8, and I really didn't read that much even then. But but that was really hard for me because I was made fun of because I wasn't on grade level or whatever it was. Like even teachers would make fun of me and be mean. But I did have a teacher that was like an angel when I was 8. And I think that's why I started reading, because she would read with me. So I was taken out of my regular classroom, and she was my teacher that would take me out into the other classroom, and she would read with me, and it was just me and her. And I think that's what I needed. I needed that one-on-one, and I needed to not feel pressured into it. And it didn't matter like how many competitions, like, oh, you'll win a car, or you'll win this, or you'll get Pizza Hut, or whatever it was. Like, I wasn't motivated by that. Like, I wanted to do something because I wanted to do it. So when I started reading was when I wanted to, and no one was going to make me, no matter how many bribes or treats or things they tried to get me to do. And then my teacher not only was like amazing at the time, but I ended up moving after my 3rd grade year, and she would write me, and she wrote me letters and was amazing. And when I graduated from high school, I sent her an invitation to my graduation, more like an announcement rather than her coming, because she lived in Colorado and I was in Utah at the time. But she sent me this little angel, and it says, "We inhale the future and exhale the past." And I just hang it here in my library, and I just always think of her and like how she honored who I was and loved me the way I was, and that made me want to learn. So I think when we do that with our children, then that's when they're going to flourish and be ready to read or whatever it is. Like, they'll be ready for it when they're ready. So
that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. Wow, I'm so impressed. How wonderful that you had her in your life. That's really, really beautiful. Okay, Emily.
That was beautiful, Rachel. Thank you for sharing. I agree with Laura that we have to be careful with the list too of like what to expect at the ages, because our children do mature and grow at different rates, and there'll be all kinds of things that will make them grow and mature differently, life experiences, disabilities and all kinds of things. But I like to use those lists and take the ages off, and so I can look at what I can expect next, especially when I had my oldest is 24. But when I was a first-time mom, I didn't know when they were supposed to crawl and roll over. And so that was nice to look at those lists and know what to look forward to and ways that I can encourage growth and development. And so that's how I like to use the list. But I have to be careful, like Laura alluded to, about pushing my children or getting worried about it, and just letting them be who they are and accepting them for who they are. I have 2 children with dyslexia, and so that has been a struggle and something I've had to work through, that it's okay if she's 14 and just beginning to read. That's her, and that's her growth line, and we can work with that.
Yeah, I love that. And in my mentioning that also, just so you know, I used it as a positive, and I don't believe in like being disappointed with your kids because they're not there yet. Because that is such an unhealthy thing. So sad for kids when they have adults around them that are negative about their development or negative just in the speaking to the child. That always kind of hurts my heart. I mean, as moms, sometimes we make mistakes and we say things we shouldn't say. I don't mean that kind of thing, but when children are belittled or ridiculed or shamed or whatever for not being something that somebody else thinks they should be. I mean, the same thing happens to adults. And I'm going to share a really weird thing. This is so weird. But last night, and I thought this morning, oh, you'll share this. And I thought, no, I'm not going to share that. That's just weird. And I don't even want anybody to know that that's what I was doing last night. But I couldn't sleep last night. And so I got out my phone, which I never should do, and I'm not going to do again. But I got out my phone and I was looking at my phone and I looked on YouTube because I was trying to find something positive, something encouraging. And I have things that I do sometimes like that. I just listen to a podcast or listen to the scriptures, but I went on YouTube and I thought, okay, that's weird. But I thought there were some things I needed to change on the channel. So I thought, oh, that's why I'm here. So I changed those things. And then I just started looking at stuff. So Okay, so I switched over to my normal channel, and on my normal channel, some things came up that are on that channel. I'm taking forever to get to this because I don't want to tell you this apparently. But I started watching, what is it even called? Britain's Got Talent or something, like one of those shows, you know, with the Colin, or yeah, it has to be Colin, right? Or Simon, what's his name? Anyway, do you guys even know about this? Do you guys, are you just so like, you don't ever, okay. So Simon Cowell or something like that. Anyway, but they have these judges on the show, and people come and they like try out or they audition or whatever. And I watched it and I thought, oh gosh, like even like if there are people I know who would just completely ridicule me for watching that because it's just silly or whatever. But I thought, I was watching it, and as I was watching it, I was touched. I was so touched by these people. And I thought, okay, Lori, you are learning in my journey, being a lot older than the rest of you, what Well-Educated Heart is doing for me now that I'm done with the formal teaching of my kids is it's just softening my heart even more and more and more. And I watched this show, not for all the whatever, everything else about it, but I was watching it and seeing, yeah, that kind of thing. Yes, exactly. I did that kind of thing. But it was the Britain one, because the Great Britain one. But anyway, I was watching these people, like human beings, being so vulnerable and like sharing this experience or whatever. Anyway, and then people's responses to it, and people feeling hopeful and feeling happy and feeling all engaged in a kind of supporting this person or whatever. Anyway, it's really hard for me to explain this, but I had such a positive experience seeing these people in another way. Like, I don't know. I like all of us are children of Heavenly Father. We're all here trying to figure stuff out. Where most people here are honestly trying to do their best with what they've got. There are some people that are just miserable and they're really on purpose trying to make others unhappy. And that part, that's hard to understand. But everybody else, we're just trying to get through, and we need a lot of support and encouragement and kindness. And I don't know, I it's such a weird thing to have got me to these feelings, but I was just being grateful for the fact that now when I go out in the world, I really feel that way most of the time. And when I engage with people, I seem to, like, my heart's softer, and they might do something that's really dumb or frustrating or makes my life harder. But this softening of my heart, it's like the holding space thing. It helps me to just allow them to be that, just like I want people to allow that for me, right? This idea of showing grace and being kinder and allowing, that long suffering, being the long allowing. Is that Laura that shares that with us? That has been such a beautiful concept, and it's changing how I am with other people. And I can see this as another way that we as women can influence the world positively. Rachel.
Sorry, I wanted to address just really quick. You know, when you guys were talking about taking the ages off of characteristics and what people should be learning, I think I've kind of had a little come to Jesus about that for myself, because I've looked at where my other kids, how my other kids have been and how my last child is. And it is really, really hard, because I think there is a lot, for some reason, as parents, we can kind of connect our children's success with, as though it has something to do with us. And I think that so it's really hard when they struggle with something, or because it feels like we look like other people will look at us and see that we're a failure. And I think especially when when you're someone who struggles with a lot of those insecurities anyway, like me, who feels like a failure often, or, you know, just feels like I fall short so many times. Like, it's really hard to separate that. And so, and to feel like, oh my gosh, my child is not where she should be, or she's struggling with this, or, you know what, she's not multiplying and she should be, or, you know, like it's really, I feel like there's this process of disconnecting world expectations and really implementing just that separation of where they are and how they are progressing has nothing to do with my failure or success as a parent. And but I think it's really an easy thing, trap to get caught in. And so I get in that aspect, I do feel like I've really like learned a lot. I really could relate to what Rachel said about just feeling, okay, I'm not gonna put words in her mouth. When I was listening to her, I was thinking about myself. Like, I really grew up feeling very unintelligent. I like, even though I have a college degree, I feel like I just wasn't as smart as everyone else. I just don't get things as easy. And I have really struggled with that a lot. And finding the well-educated heart and seeing things. Oh gosh, you guys, what am I doing? Seeing things in story form. Like, I connect with stories so much. And like, it's like the first time in my life, it's like I feel like I get it and I learn. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never knew this. Did you guys know this? Like, just so exciting because I really connect with stories and they make sense to me and they touch me in a different way. I am not a very logical brain person. Like, I'm not a math science, like, but I love stories and connections and like the applications and the weaving of all the things and the creative stuff. And that has really, really helped me to feel like I'm not totally dumb, you know? Like, it just was about finding the right thing. That, anyway, I guess I was feeling for the first time like I can connect with how maybe my youngest daughter learns, that maybe she isn't a math science brain kind of girl, and that's okay. Guys, I'm so sorry. It felt so ridiculous. But that if she can find those connections in stories and feel that excitement through, you know, taking the lead as things feel good and happy to her, that maybe she won't grow up feeling like she's dumb too.
That is completely understandable. That is such a common thing too, Rachel. There are not a lot of, I don't know. As moms, we doubt ourselves in so many areas. So it's not surprising we would do in that area too. My goodness, that's so sweet. You're such a gentle sweetheart. I love that you shared that. Also, just wanted to share in case this, so that moms who aren't looking at this list don't misunderstand this, not to belabor this, but this age characteristics of children that's in that manual is nothing like the ones that are there for like school, that kind of development, educational thing. It's nothing like that. It's kind of just more about their, it's so sweet. Like, it tells you things like at a certain age, they'll show love and affection. Encourage the child to be self-sufficient, but provide help when necessary. Allow the child to practice making choices. Just these it's to help you be a better parent, because you sort of get kind of this general idea of where they are. And so for my experience in the past, and I'm definitely opening my heart more and realizing there's a much bigger picture here. But for a lot of moms just starting out, it has kind of given them a framework. and help them to be a little more confident, but not a boxed in thing. Because I never want to do or encourage a boxed in thing, but just kind of an allowing, like, oh, it's okay, because they're right here. Okay, Lindsay is like rocking a kitten. She has a kitten in her arms. How cute is that? Okay, sorry. Okay, I think Laura and Amy, go ahead.
Well, I just have a story that really illustrates what you're talking about. So we were in a really big ward when Tom was a sunbeam, and he got bounced from class to class because his behavior, he was just a little 3-year-old boy who didn't sit still, and he would be listening but moving his hands and moving on the chairs. Anyway, so the last class he finally made it into, Rick picked him up and he's like, how did you do today? And they're like, oh, great. And we realized those teachers for that particular sunbeam class had a lot of kids of their own. And then the other two groups of teachers were newlywed couples. So they were expecting these 3-year-olds to sit still and be perfect little angels. Whereas the ones that were well seasoned are like, no, he was great and we had fun. So it really is helpful to know what is normal for that age so that you don't get frustrated. And then just on a different note, what I've been thinking about, I was going back to the story of going to see the bears in person to help with that goal. And just knowing going out and experiencing the world with your kids is so much fun. Like, I think we forget, and if we get stuck in, oh, they need to be learning this and this, just remember, and that's the beauty of childhood, is that everything is new and it's so fun and interesting. And even now, even though my kids are mostly teenagers and above, we all went to the rodeo for the first time this year, and just watching everybody's experiencing something new. That also helped with my feelings towards society right now, because it's it was a very patriotic crowd, and you could just feel that it opened with a prayer and that crowd got completely silent. And then singing the national anthem, it was just beautiful. And then another experience, my 14-year-old son wants to be an instrument repairman. And we got the chance to just do a couple of virtual classes. And the guy teaching the class was so excited to have this young boy because he had really good questions and he got to do it. And so I like this. It's fun. And it's fun as a parent to be stretched to go and learn things that they want to learn and be interested in. So it shouldn't ever end in life to go out and learn and experience new things. And I think that's part of what keeps us going too. It's when we're stuck and not learning and growing that life gets boring and not as much fun.
Yeah, I love that. And you're always up for adventures. You're good about that. You know, Lindsay shared, I don't know if you guys saw any of her pictures or posts, but when she was at Mount Rushmore, she said that was such a cool experience to be there and see all of the flags of all the 50 states all lined up there. She said that was such a beautiful picture and a good reminder of this amazing, incredible place we live in, where there are 50 independent states that are part of this whole. And she said she was kind of overwhelmed with some feelings while she was there, and it was a good reminder with all the crazy stuff that's been in our past recently. So that was kind of neat too. It's great to put ourselves in positive places, and sometimes the only place that is our homes and nature, and that's okay. Those are great opportunities and great places that Heavenly Father has given to us so that we have places to go that are calm and beautiful and safe. And I love that. Cassie, yeah.
So I can also relate to not like feeling like I matched up to my peers or I wasn't the smartest person, which was fine. I didn't need to be the smartest, but a little bit about my education background and my parents' decisions for me, which I'm grateful for. I started out in a private school, and it was like my parents always sought out after private schools, charter schools, accelerated learning, that kind of stuff. And so maybe they saw my potential or wanted me to be in an environment that they thought was best to thrive. And in certain ways it was. In other ways, it was a lot of pressure. And
it, like growing up, I could feel it, whether it wasn't necessarily my parents pressuring me, but it was like myself and getting down on myself. And then because I was in environments where it was like college prep and stuff like that, yeah, it did have to work hard. It didn't come easy to me. And my husband and I went to the same high school, and for him, he didn't have to read the books or take the notes. Like, he could hear it being taught and take the tests and straight A's or whatever. For me, I really had to work hard. But so my point being, I think that all of the internal pressures and like not realizing that where my pace and how I do things is okay too, led to triggering depression in my life. So I realized, like, I didn't necessarily notice that in early on, but when I go back and look at my 8th grade poetry, I'm like, oh wow, why didn't people read this and question me and like what was going on? But I'm a very artistic, not mathematical brain, or at least I've trained myself to believe that, maybe because of these education structures. But and then when growing up, when I was younger, I always would say like, I want to be an artist when I grow up. But traditionally, like, what I told myself was, that's not a job, that's a hobby, and you can't make money, and that's not like a educated being's profession. So in 8th grade, we had a project, and it was like, tell us the 3 colleges you wish to go to and the 3 careers. And I remember thinking that, oh yeah, I can do it, and I'm going to be at Harvard, Princeton, or Yale. Then I went to university high school, which was again college prep and like super accelerated. And I realized I was not meeting like those kind of standards. And I didn't have that passion or interest, but I was like trying to force myself to be, and I just kind of fell apart academically. Like, I graduated that high school and passed things, but it was just hard. And if I didn't have to take an AP course, I didn't. There was some subjects I truly loved, and I was like, okay, I get it. And the others, I was like, this is just so much. But having to do all of those accelerated courses all at once, all the time, and cram in the homework and cram in the hours, and it was a lot. So in high school, I did experience depression and went through a whole thing. But I took we got to take electives, and usually the electives I took were creative or active. But I took a painting course, and this is actually a high school painting. It's nothing like spectacular, but I like it, or it has some memories that I'll share. So this is actually over here. Oh my goodness, sorry, this child is into everything. This is a desk and a shadow kind of rock person, because here's a mathematics chart, and I remember the red coloring of the floor and the window, and it was a sunny day and people got to go outside for recess, so the door is open. And then on this side, in my front yard, my neighbor's house has this beautiful tree, and I saw the sun shining through it, and it's almost like it was all glittering. And they have the fence, and I just loved their tree. I think it's like cherry tree or something. And then we had grass, but I like nature. So in my mind, imaginative mind, I just added water and rocks, and the water actually represents crying. And you can't see it, but there's a little tear on this rock person's face. So during my high school depression, oh my goodness, my outlet was like sketching and poetry and painting and whatnot, because I would hide it all. It was all internal. And anyway, so I remember laying out on my front yard, and I'm an only child. I live in a big house, so it was easy to hide away. I'd lay out in my front yard on the grass and sketch things around me or whatever. So I had a sketch of this tree, which turned into this painting. But as I cried, like, and went through the thoughts and the emotions and whatnot. So that's what all of this symbolizes, like the crying person, the river of tears, that moment. But this actually is a kindergarten memory about math. So math has always been intimidating to me. so this is from my kindergarten mind, so I don't really know from an adult perspective what happened, but we would do those like do so many this was addition or subtraction, and you had to finish it all before recess in order to go out. And so I did it all and I understood it and I was so happy, but I got to the last box and the last box was 0 plus 0. And I was stuck on it for the longest time and everyone left to recess and I felt so bad about myself that I didn't understand this concept. I was like, but it's nothing. Like, I don't get it. What do I put here? Like, what is 0? Some reason I could not understand. And eventually the teacher in my mind, kindergarten mind, came over to me and was like, it's 0. Like, so I thought I was kind of getting like yelled at, or I just felt so bad. And it's just a memory I have about math. And maybe that's why I grew up like scared of math, but I don't think that teacher intended that way. And maybe she was just like, hey, it's 0, put it on paper, go outside. Or maybe she was just, I don't know. But in my mind, what happened like scared me. And I remember, I think after that day, like crying every day before kindergarten. So I think like everyone's different, right? And they thrive in different environments and whatever their interests are. You have gifts and talents, and that's what your spirit's telling you to pursue. And even like America's Got Talent or American Idol, I think why we enjoy a lot of those is because our spirits and talents, like our talents, our spirits are connecting to maybe those people and appreciating their gifts and talents on this earth. But so it doesn't like matter the education. Like my parents put me in all these specific schools. It matters about the person. So the more you love and understand the person and what works for them and what they might thrive in or where they need help, it's like communication and love and understanding, and different people for different places. So I mean, I made it work, right? I got through those schools and I went to college, I finished, and just went to like the state school here. But everyone's accomplishments, gifts, and their pace and how they learn things are beautiful. And so just, I don't know how to end this now that I'm a little scattered. But anyway, that was my experience with those kind of educations and who I really was versus who I was trying to be. That's all. That was long, sorry.
Oh, it was so sweet. It was so sweet and very applicable, Cassie. Thank you for sharing. Wow, that's a lot of stuff there. And I had been sitting here feeling really dumb for sharing that thing about Great Britain's Got Talent or whatever. But I was thinking about just now, and I know I want Laura to share. But one of the things I saw in there, and if anybody has seen this, there was this couple that came on. It was just two friends, and they were in voice lessons together, and their voice teacher told them to go on the show. And the guy was, they were like 16 and 17 or something like that. And the young man was very large, very heavy, and had really long kind of curly hair, and just had a long t-shirt on and sweats and t-shirt, it was just tennis shoes, and was very awkward, very uncomfortable, very nervous. And the only reason he was even on there was because this friend that took lessons with him was there with him, and they sang a duet together, and it was an operatic song. But anyway, and you could tell like the judges didn't have high expectations, and they were just kind of like, okay, I mean, I don't know how much of that is real and whatever, but anyway, the experience that I had watching was here's this young man, and he's talking about how, he's been made fun of his whole life because he's had this problem with weight and just being awkward, and people bullied him his whole life and everything. And he was so unsure. And then the song starts, and this absolutely incredible, like theater filling voice, this beautiful operatic voice comes out of him, and he's like transformed, and it's just one of those opportunities where you get to see a person have a moment where who they really are comes through, and you think, well, anyway, so my experience was just thinking, wow, how wonderful that he gets to have at least this moment of being realized for who, for who he is, for some part of what's inside of him, and how beautiful that was. And I thought, I want to be the person that sees that in other people. I want to be the person that can hold space for a person while allowing them to be who they are, and allowing them to become confident enough or secure enough, safe enough, whatever it is, to be who they are and be loved for being who they are. I don't know if that makes any sense. So Laura, I'm sure, can actually make sense of all of this, but I just wanted to share that, my little experience. Okay, Laura.
I was actually just thinking, I don't know if I can add to what your comments, because it's just so perfect and beautiful. But I did have a couple of things. Actually, I love that show, and I'm really glad that you shared what you did, because it brought a memory to my mind a few months ago. My family was all sick. I'm sure it's below. My family was sick the whole day, all together on a Sunday, and we were watching Alex Boyer. We were watching him perform on YouTube, just his videos, and we love him. And after watching multiple videos of his performances and just being so inspired, and just like his music is so powerful. And then up popped I didn't even know this, but up popped his performance on America's Got Talent, or I don't know if it was America's Got Talent or whatever, which one, but it was one of those. And it was so many years ago. He was way younger, way before his career. And it was so interesting to see his performance and his lack of confidence. Like, he wasn't a big singer yet. He was so new, and he was singing and just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but it wasn't the same. Like, it was still very powerful, and they were all wowed and everything. Like, but he was shocked by his applause, by their reaction. He was just so shocked, and it just showed. Like, I was just thinking, like, man, his confidence after that was like amazing. But before that, you could just kind of tell, like, it wasn't the same as when he performs now. And it made me think, like, man, if he could see his future, because we had just gotten done watching all of his current stuff and then seeing this from, like, I don't know how many years before. And I thought, if he could see where he was going to be that day when he was performing, I wonder how he would have performed, how it would have changed his performance, with that confidence, knowing who he was going to be in the future and where his career was going to take him. And that is something, in coaching, we talk about being future focused versus past focused. And a lot of us, I mean, it's so human nature to judge ourselves and others, but mainly ourselves, based on who we have been, based on what we have done, based on what we haven't been able to do, what we haven't been able to accomplish in our past. And then that affects our confidence in our ability to do it, or to create, or what we can do, what we can create, what our future goals are, what we can accomplish, all of that. And so if we can look at our future and just imagine what we're going to be. And so, like, when Rachel was talking, and I was thinking about, like, I share this very similar, I think we all do as mothers, feel like we're not enough, and we're not, our children we're failing our children and all of that. But, like, if we could see what our kids' future is, if we could see what our future is, like, Heavenly Father can see all of that. And yet we are just so close, we're right in the middle of it. If we could just pull back, remove that veil, and see where we are, I think that would just change so much. And just that confidence. Also, we talk a lot about confidence coming from within, not based on the external, like what people say to us, what people do to us, what happens on the external, like that applause, that affected his confidence. But really, our confidence can come from within, from inside of us, or from God. Like, that is so much more powerful. And so anyways, just like we talked about how, like, accepting our children right where they are, but I think more powerful is just like accepting us and loving ourselves right where we are. We are exactly where we're supposed to be as mothers, and just love ourselves.
Yeah. Yes. And I think, Laura, I was thinking about how in this group we do that, and we can continue to do it even better, to love ourselves and help each other, help support each other, doing that. And the comments over here are going crazy with that book, that Brooks Notebook, Living in Your True Identity. It really is wonderful. It's so beautiful. Ida, nice to see your face, little world traveler. Welcome home. But Laura, thank you so much. Those were beautiful comments, and I really appreciate that. Ida.
I was just gonna say I love what Cassie shared and what Rachel shared. Those are and Laura too. I was thinking how I had those same kinds of feelings, like I felt driven to try to be the smartest, but I never felt like I measured up, and in my family, education was really important. And so I always tried to.
Are we losing you? You're frozen.
XYZ.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
And now.
Anyways, all my siblings are smart, and all of them have had better grades than I did always. Like they were all, especially a couple of my siblings were really, really, that's just their talent, and I don't feel like I'm stupid, but it's taken me a long time to just give myself grace and realize that I have talents and they aren't necessarily measured in the same way that other people's are, and that's okay. And I love art, and I love music, and I love just being creative. That's like my thing. Anyways, but I really loved Brooks Snow's, this whole discussion reminded me of Brooks Snow's book, and talking about looking at a lot of times we are looking or seeking external indications that we're successful, that we have value, and really our value comes from Heavenly Father, right? And I think it makes me think, how can I do that, help my kids to realize that more, instead of looking for these other things to help them to have value, and then I think she talks about it in her book, but maybe I read something somewhere, but the things that we say to people, like those comments that you make to your children, or like that teacher that said, whatever, like how we say things and what we say, it really is impactful, and we can be kind with our words. And, and I struggle with this myself. Sometimes my kids will I'm trying to teach them something and they're not getting it, and I get frustrated. And then I feel like that frustration is coming out in my tone of voice and the things that I say. And I have to step away and be like, you know what, this is not how this should be, And as I've tried to be kinder and gentler with them, I see how much more, how much it's helping them, even with reading, I think somebody talked about that, one of my kids, all of my kids have not been interested in reading and didn't start reading until they were around 8 years old. And I would just sit and read with them. And I didn't do a very good job with my first two, being patient with them. And I feel like, as I've tried to change my approach, it's made a difference in their lives. And I can see how they respond to that, just being softer and kinder to my third son. And if he doesn't know something, I don't just expect him to remember it. I just say, it's okay. That's fine. Let me remind you, this is whatever, or I'll tell him, and it's so silly and simple, but I think we just get this idea in our heads that they have to be here, and they have to, we talked about this 10 times already. Why don't you know this? And Heavenly Father doesn't expect that from us. Nobody does, anyways. So I don't know. I guess I just thought how much it's important that we are kind and gentle to ourselves, and that we also try to act that way towards our children, obviously, as their mothers, as we're teaching them, because our words matter and how we approach it and the tone of our voice matters. And that I love the meditation. I haven't been doing really good at keeping up on it with Brooks Knows meditation stuff about I just love and accept you. It's just saying that. It really is powerful, you know, and I haven't been doing it all the time, but I've been doing the breathing a lot because I notice how much it helps me to just like feel grounded and like be in tune. And that helps me to remember, okay, you know what? I need to take a little break here and breathe, you know, and that just that simple thing is so helpful. Another thing that I love to say that she talks about in one of her podcasts is when she had the experience of not breathing, being able to breathe, you know, she said, Christ is the breath of life. She said that over and over again as she was trying to breathe and she was in this ambulance. If you guys haven't watched it, you should listen to it. Anyways, and I love that thing to just think about. And so I often will say that too when I'm doing my breathing. Anyways, this is going on and on too. I'll just stop now. But I love this conversation and I really appreciated the thoughts that were shared.
Thank you, Ida. I love it. I was thinking when you were talking, what's the greatest commandment? You know, that whole discussion of love others as, you know, as you love yourself. Well, that Lindsay and I had a really good discussion about that one day for a long time, Bunting and Kristen and I. But so how much do you, you know, how well do you love yourself? You know, that's important to understand, to see yourself the way he sees you. That was a step I took at one point, not that long ago. I think I shared that with you, but just to pray and ask Heavenly Father to help you see how he sees you. And that was eye-opening. This is this true real identity versus the false identity that Satan puts in our heads. You know, we seem to, like I said, we seem to accept those so beautifully. That's not what I meant. Accept those so readily. And now I think with this heartwarming, putting these beautiful things in our lives, we're surrounded by beauty and warmth. And I think that we start to be able to receive the correct messages a little more easily. But isn't it incredible how breath, just breathing, can make a difference, can bring you back to the present, to being that idea of being in God's presence, because you are present and he is omnipresent. And so then you two are together in the same moment, and how grounding that can be, how that can help you come back from whatever you're feeling. That's a common thing for me now, is just to breathe. And I don't know, there's so much power in that.
Lori, quick, can I say something else?
Of course.
I was just thinking too about the thoughts. I was talking about, you know, like the thoughts that we think about ourselves, and Brooks Snow talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
And that, you know, like we hear these things, like maybe like Cassie talked about this thing that her teacher said when she was a child, you know,
yeah.
And that it gave her this thought, you know, even if it wasn't necessarily what the teacher intended, but that Satan is trying to put thoughts in our heads just the same as Heavenly Father is, right?
Right.
And we can control what thoughts we're allowing into our mind. And I really love the power in that too. Like we can make a difference of what we're allowing ourselves to think or believe.
Yeah, exactly. That they're in that emotional resilience course that the church offers, which again, I say, if you have a moment, wow, go through that manual. It's powerful. There's so much good in there. But that statement is made in there that both Satan and the Savior are vying for for the place in your thoughts. You know, which one are you going to invite and allow and keep there, you know, and which one are you going to kick out? So we do have a choice there. Laura is so good with helping us remember that we have control over our thoughts, and our thoughts come before our feelings. So if we can get those thoughts, if we can get in there and create that invitation and invite the Savior in and welcome these and encourage these more positive thoughts, then that's going to bring us more positive feelings, which are going to lead us to more positive acts. And I think one of our biggest things is don't beat yourself up when you make a mistake. That's not what Heavenly Father does with us. He's never taught us to do that. but we do it to ourselves most of all. And I think it's so good to remember that he would just love us. He would love us and say, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I understand that's tough. I mean, something along those lines. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth either, but he loves us through all of it, through huge mistakes and doing things over and over and over again and seemingly not learning. He still loves us and shows us patience and offers grace and mercy. And we need to offer that to ourselves. We are much more effective. We'll punish ourselves and do all that negative, but thinking that somehow that's some kind of a righteous judgment or response or some kind of a penance or something. But that's just Satan trying to discourage us and keep us from the great work that we have the ability to do. So anybody else have something they want to share before I turn it to Linnell for our summary? I hope that's okay, Linnell, but I'm just looking at your faces in case there's anything that anybody else wants to share. Please feel free to do that if you do. Okay, if not, then we'll go to Linnell. Are you all right doing that with your in the car there?
Yep, I'm ready. Can you hear me? Okay. All the background music.
Yep.
I have 3 thoughts I want to share with you. One, I read that education and learning is between the student and God. And so I think oftentimes as mothers, in our good intentions, we interfere with that communication and that relationship. And so Marlene has offered these amazing resources through the Catch the Vision introductory course that helps us to recognize our role in that so that we aren't interfering. And learning happens between our children and God and even between ourselves and God. And as we learn and dive into that Catch the Vision course, it helps us learn what our role is, helps us be better prepared to help our children and to guide them so that they can experience this learning. And then I think Mothers of Influence, this opportunity to associate with each other and to be part of this group, allows us to fill our cup and have someone to share it with. And I imagine that each of us have a glass, and what we put into it is what we decide to study or spend our time doing. And as I've been a part of this group, I haven't felt like I intimidate people. A lot of my life, I've intimidated people with what I do or who I am or how I speak or just all sorts of aspects. And I think that when there's and feel like we are lacking, but when we fill our cups, then we don't have this need to take from other people. We just have so much that we can share with other people. And so I think the beauty of associating in a Mothers of Influence and surrounding ourselves by beautiful women who are on the same track as us is that they encourage you and they lift you up and they want to be good. And so when they see you and your strengths and what you're working on, even your struggles can be a motivation and an inspiration to each other in the way that we deal with them or our perspectives and our attitudes about them. And I think that's the beauty of being a part of this group and helping each other and lifting each other up, that we don't feel like we need to take away from others in order to shine and to be our best selves, but we can work on ourselves and focus on what we have to offer and then just to share that with the world. We can just be overflowing with goodness and help others and be a light and a blessing to them. And so I'm grateful for all of you and for the influence and for the inspiration that you've been for me. And I appreciate hearing from you and learning from you. And we fill ourselves, then we have so much more to offer to our families.
Ah, that is beautiful. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Wonderful job, Linnell. Thanks for that's beautiful summary. Okay, moms, this has been wonderful. Really good to connect again. I thought, oh, it'll be summertime. We'll start going a little shorter. We've just gone 2 hours and 23 minutes. But it's so great to be together. I just love it. Thanks, everyone. And Emily, thanks for joining us. That was fun to get to have you be here in person with us today. Emily listens to the recording, so It was good to have Cammie here too. I saw that she jumped off at some point. Totally understand, but it was great. You moms were so wonderful and supportive of Cammie joining us today and helping answer her questions and all of that. I love it. And I intend to see more of you this week on Marco Polo. For those of you, if you are crazy enough to want to be added to that group, it's, you just open up your phone and you've got 35 recordings to watch, but they're usually shortish and they're just a joy. They are so wonderful. People are sharing the things they're doing and seeing and learning and and just thoughts and ideas and popping out of freezers and cabinets. And you guys are just so funny. It's just been really lovely to get to know you on a deeper, more personal level. So if you want to be included, let me know and we can add you, and your life you will have no time for scrolling. That's the thing I learned. You give up the things that weren't ever necessary anyway, and you get a lot more projects done because you just set your phone over there and you let the videos run while you're super ultra productive. So it's kind of a win. Anyway, so it's been wonderful. Thanks everybody. Love you all. I really truly love you, and I'm so grateful that you're a part of my life.